every word and every act. His assurance and His love. Why fear when I am here? He said. And for every devotee, He is here, there, and everywhere. Painfully guiding every step like a dance teacher. As the bud blossomed to reveal 1,000 petals, it can only be said that the fragrance of the first few years is unique. Today we would like to begin with one very important question. And the question is something that might commonly arise in all of our minds. And that is, it is fantastic to relive the stories of Swami. It is nice to, go to the past, go to history and listen to those stories of how devotees got an opportunity to interact with the Lord. But along with that also comes a pining that we want to experience the same. How do we experience it? This is a question that has been asked not only just in this current scenario. It has been asked even when Swami was physically there. Because though Swami was physically available for all, not everybody got equal opportunities. Apparently, though everyone is created equal, some are more equal than the others, it felt. So while some of us may feel bad that we have come at a time when we cannot interact, imagine the plight of those who have come many times and yet not got a physical interaction. So this is not a question that has been asked only today. This is a question that has been asked throughout the lifetime of the avatar as to what do we do when the avatar does not interact with us? Bhagwan started going out of Puttaparthi when he got invited by a few families from Bangalore. In one of the earliest visits to Bangalore, probably in 1944, there is an incident that has been recorded even in the Satyam Shivam Sundaram, which answers this very question as to what do we do if we have not got those many interactions with Bhagwan. This is the experience of a certain Krishnamurti. Now, this was the time when Bhagwan, he used to not wear a robe also. He used to wear a shirt and a dhoti. At that time, there was this Krishnamurti who worked as a secretary, a clerk in the Mysore Secretariat. That time there was no state of Karnataka in India. It was called the Mysore state. And when he saw Bhagwan, he saw Swami, while everyone else saw him as a teenage boy, this Krishnamurti knew that he is much beyond the teenage boy that he is seeing. And so he fell straight at the feet of Swami. But surprisingly, instead of granting him Pada Namaskar, Swami moved back and asked for this Krishnamurti to be restrained. Krishnamurti said, Baba, I know you are not this boy. I know you are something much more. Show me who you really are. Show me who you really are. And when he kept pestering, Bhagwan materialized a photograph of Shirdi Baba and told him, you worship this photograph, you will be fine. And then Swami left that home. So Krishnamurti sat there worshipping this photograph of Shirdi Baba. It was around 12:30 when Bhagwan returned. Because those days, early days, Swami used to stay for about a week or 10 days at different devotees' homes. He returned back to this devotee's home around 12:30 or 1. The minute Swami crossed the threshold of the home, Krishnamurti had some kind of an electric jolt. After which, he closed his eyes, his physical eyes. It is often the experience that when one's inner eye is opened, one does not want to open the outer eye. Because what else is left to be seen when everything is seen by the inner eye. And so Krishnamurti closed his eyes and he said, I don't want to set my eyes on anything other than the feet of Swami. This was probably how Swami used to look those days. And he wanted to just look at the feet of Swami. A Pad Namaskar he wanted. Those were the days when the huge crowds used to be like 20 or 25. And so everyone was assured of a Pad Namaskar. A Pad Namaskar was no big deal. Because Swami would be staying at your home, he would be lying down on the cot, on the bed there. He would be dining with you. What is a Pad Namaskar? But surprisingly, as I said, Swami is not granting Pad Namaskar to Krishnamurti. And other devotees are surprised now. Swami, after all, one Pad Namaskar, why don't you give him? Why are you creating an artificial scarcity of Pad Namaskars? But that Swami did not agree. In fact, Swami asked for Krishnamurti to be taken away. Krishnamurti was taken away, and all the while he keeps his eyes closed. Even when he is back at home, he hardly eats, he hardly sleeps. All the while he just pines and he wants to get back to Swami. I want to come to Swami and see his feet. Swami says, no, don't get him here. In fact, on one occasion, Krishnamurti gets out of his house, doesn't open his eyes still, goes to a horse cart, the Tanga, hires it, tells the address, goes there, and as Kasturi Garu records it in Satyam Shivam Sundaram, he is smelling out where Bhagwan is because he doesn't want to open his eyes. He is going to the window on the other side, wherever Swami is in that home, and he is tapping there. And again Swami says, take him away. Apparently it happens like this. When you are seeking God, God seems to be pushing you away. All of us might have had experiences like that. He is not able to see the feet of the Lord. He is taken away at home, and because of that continuous lack of food, sleep, everything, he becomes so weak that he has to be admitted into a hospital. Nothing seems to be helping, and they come and tell Swami, Swami, you just give him just let him see your feet. This is another mistake we make. Swami, please heal that person. Swami, please take care of that person. Swami will ask, do you think you have more compassion and love than me? I know what is good for each one. You think that you love that person more than I love that person. Anyway, since they go and tell this to Swami, Swami gives a little water with which his feet have been washed. And he says, offer this to him as tirtham. This water that Krishnamurti drinks and he gets back his strength. He returns home and he doesn't want to do anything other than bhajan. He has not yet seen Swami's feet. He has just had the washings as tirtham. Washings of Swami's feet as tirtham. And during that bhajan, singing aloud the name of the Lord, he gets up, walks to his cot, he lies down on the bed, and with a peaceful smile on his face, he leaves his body. And everyone realizes what a blessed death it was. And then Swami says, the immeasurable bliss that he would have got when he had viewed my feet would be too much for his body to bear. He was not yet ready for that bliss. And when he was ready, I received him at my feet. Krishnamurti sought to see the feet. He was saying, Swami, let me see your feet once, that's all. But see the Lord in his compassion, what he gave him a permanent place at his lotus feet. That is the compassion of the Lord which we don't understand. But this experience teaches us one more important lesson. I was looking back at my own life and I was thinking, probably a dozen times I have touched Swami's feet. What happened to me? I'm alive and sitting here and talking to all of you. Nothing has happened to me. But Krishnamurti didn't even touch Swami's feet once, didn't even see Swami's feet. And yet he achieved the ultimate. So what is the magic? Is the magic in the feet, or is the magic in the pining for the feet? The Lord, when he comes as an avatar, he comes only to inculcate and cultivate this love for God in the hearts of people. That's all. For that he does different activities. What matters is how we pine, how we crave, how we desire intensely for Swami. And that we can do even today, even now. The other day I met a lady who had come from South America. And I asked her, how did you feel? How did you feel after you had darshan? She says, it's electrifying. I wondered how. Because when I had my first darshan there at the Samadhi, after Swami left, the experience was remorse-filled, was sorrow-filled, was terrible. And this lady, she has not even seen Swami, and she says, it was electrifying. Oh my God, I don't know if I can take it. And see, that continues even today, right? When we listen to Swami stories, we get that intense pining in our heart. We want to experience Swami on our own. And that is why it is said that the Lord's stories are the only and best substitute for the Lord's form itself. Because these are stories of the form. And they can ignite in us pining for that form, pining for that Lord, which grants us the ultimate experience.
These early devotees from Bangalore were at Puttaparthi, and they were the first ones to invite Swami to Bangalore. So Swami decided to make his maiden trip to Bangalore, which was in 1944. The dates may be January, February of 1944, February mostly. This photograph which we see here was taken in 1944, but not on the first trip of 1944. When we look at this picture, two things which strike us. The halo is missing. The hair of Swami, which we are so fond of, which took beautiful shapes in the years to come, it's not yet come. I think it's about 2 or 3 years in the making still. And the other thing which we notice is Swami is not wearing that characteristic robe of his. Right? Because whenever we remember Swami, whenever we think of Swami, whether or not we get the face in our mind, we get that orange robe, that form clad in an ochre robe. What about that robe? When did that robe come? When Swami went to Bangalore for the first time, the first trip he made was to, as we said, Kamalamma's sister and brother-in-law invited Swami, and the brother-in-law's name was Shamanna. So Swami went to Bangalore to visit their house. That was the first house he visited in Bangalore. And Swami went in a striped shirt and dhoti. Okay, he walks into the house and they invite him. They very cordially invite him with all the respects which are due. But strangely, Swami walks in and Swami says, I don't like what I'm wearing. Right? And they're surprised. Suddenly Swami is saying, I don't like what I'm wearing. They thought Swami looked quite handsome in what he was wearing. But they thought probably Swami wants an attire which is more spiritual, right? Makes him stand out from the rest of them. So what did they do? One particular person in Bangalore, his name was Srinivas, he gifted Swami with a kurta and dhoti. And this was made of what was called a makmal cloth. That time it was one of the popular materials. So that was the first time somebody gave a nice loose-fitting kurta and a dhoti. And this did not stop with that. It changed. When Swami came in 1945, there was another person who gave Swami jubba which was stitched in calico mills cloth. Right? All these are beautiful details which have been documented. Just sharing it with all of you as we read it, and it's so nice to reminisce and see how even that attire changed. And that time there was a particular style called Madanapalli jubba. We all know Madanapalli, which is a place on the way to the city of Madras. If you take a bus, you'll come across that town. So this particular style which Swami was wearing, it came almost up till Swami's knee. This is called Madanapalli jubba. And this was followed by a kurta which was given by a very, very great devotee. We're going to talk about him in detail. This is a couple from nearby Bukkapatnam. The person's name was Yadalam Venkatramanappa. This surname Yadalam, you'll remember it because this is one family. We are talking about 1943-44. Even now, till 2000, I think Yadalam Gangadhar Shetty, probably many of you would have seen him, he used to walk behind Swami in Vrindavan. So generations and generations, I think not less than 6 or 7 generations have been devotees of Swami right from 1943. So he was one of the early devotees who gave Swami that kurta which almost came till the ankle. Right? So that was the first transition from a regular kurta to a kurta which was almost like a robe. And that was still not the color which we are so accustomed to. It was still a greyish or off-white kurta. And then later, I think one devotee from Bangalore, they gifted Swami with a silk robe. It was stitched by Bikoji Rao and Sons tailors, right? So they were the first ones to give Swami a silk robe. Still, the robe was yellowish, off-white or grey. We will talk about another devotee. She's going to feature very, very prominently in our future episodes. A devotee by name Sakama. Swami would call her Coffee Pudi Sakama or Doddamane Sakama, as she was otherwise known as. She felt that here is Swami. No, he is very special for us, right? Swami is so special for us. Why should he get lost in the crowd? Everybody is wearing whites. Everybody is wearing some colored clothes. Why should Swami get lost in the crowd? Swami should wear something which stands out, right? So she was the first one who thought that Swami should wear something which is reddish or ochre. So she was the one who transitioned Swami's robes from the colors of grey and off-white and yellow to the colors which we are more used to, that is ochre and orange. And Swami would recollect in his discourses much later that the first time Swami was given an ochre robe, Swami wore that, and Swami came out and Swami wanted to show Subamma and Kamalamma that new robe, the new color which he had got. Kamalamma and Subamma were thrilled to see Swami in that ochre robe. They fell at Swami's feet, they had tears of devotion. Then Mother Ishwaramma came. Swami wanted to show Mother Ishwaramma, but Mother Ishwaramma, the moment she saw that, she broke down in tears. Because, all said and done, she knows she has given a promise that Swami, I have given you to the world. Swami, I have no more ties to bind you. But still, seeing Swami in that ochre robe, to see Swami as one who has completely broken away all ties from the family, she breaks down to see Swami there. But still, Swami was wearing the silk robe. What about the robe which we saw many years later? This is a very interesting incident which some of the later devotees narrated. One day, Swami was looking at one particular devotee and he was wearing a kurta. For some reason, Swami was strangely observing him very keenly. Right? Every time Swami would come out for darshan, Swami would look at him and Swami would ask something to the people around him. So one day, Swami called this devotee for an interview and Swami said, I want to ask you one thing, don't take it otherwise. He said, yes, Swami, anything. Then Swami asked him, see, the kurta which you're wearing, it seems to be very nice material. It doesn't seem to get crumpled when you sit down and get up. The crease stays intact. See, my robe, it gets so crumpled, I need to change it so often. What is that material which you're wearing? So this devotee was from Bombay and he said, Swami, this is terracotta. It's a synthetic material. So that is when Swami took on to wearing that kind of material. This is how human Swami was, One thing apart, his divine was always there. But how Swami embraced some of these things, and even as Arvind was talking about Krishnamurti and how fond and how desperate he was to see Swami's feet. Whenever you look at Swami's feet, in any of these pictures, we speak of how much Swami walked. Right? Swami walks across Bukkapatnam, Swami walks till the towns nearby, Swami walks up and down the hills and hillocks, into the bushes, into the meadows. I'm sure he would have walked barefoot most of the time. And we knew that the later years, Swami walked on the concrete barefoot, Swami walked on the sands barefoot. But look at those feet. It looked like it was preserved in some safe, right? There was not a scar, there was not a crack, there was not a white patch in it. Why Swami used to take care so much? Because Swami would say, the devotees are so fond of my feet. They come and kiss my feet, they come and put their head on my feet. I have to keep it as clean as I can. There was a beautiful precept in that. Swami would say, when Swami would talk to his students, he would say, see, this body has to be taken care of, not as an object to show off to the people around you. Take it care because it has got such a valuable role to play in your life. It is a container which is going to take you to your destination. So Swami did not say, don't take care of your body, don't take care of your other worldly implements, but see the reason for that. So similarly, Swami said, I need to take care of my feet because for my devotees. So in everything which Swami did, Swami changed his robe. Swami wanted to, interesting, we will come to another point where Swami's red robe was already appearing in devotees' dreams even before he had adapted it. And before I give it back to Arvind, I spoke about Yadalam Venkataramanappa. Why this devotee needs a very, very special mention in whenever we speak about Swami's early years is, we spoke about the animosity which Swami had and the cold treatment which people around Puttaparthi had towards Swami. This was one couple who were in Bukkapatnam, who were devotees of Swami, who used to take it upon themselves to play host for all those devotees who would have a stopover in Bukkapatnam. When all the other people in those villages, when they would come across this group of devotees, any group of devotees coming, they would stone them, they would spit on them, they would say, "You're all fools, go back where you are." They would trouble them, but this was one family who would call them into their house, give them buttermilk, they would help them hire bullock carts. And this was one such family which was so devoted. How were they devoted? They had a very, very beautiful experience. This was shared by them to the early devotees. They were traders by nature. They would go to different towns and they used to sell mostly spices and other items like that. We all know the Satyabama temple. This couple would come, they would bring their spices in a bundle and they would spread their shop in front of the Satyabama temple. Their practice was they would come to Puttaparthi, offer a worship to Satyabama, and then they would start their shop. So on their way, they find some beautiful red flowers. So the couple decide, why not make a garland for Satyamma? So they sit there, they pluck the flowers, make a garland. And as they're coming, on a hillock, they see a very, 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 very beautiful, brilliant sight. What do they see there? They say they see the Lord of Tirupati, Venkateshwara, standing there in all his glory. And they are shocked. They don't know what to make of this. They're seeing there with Shankha, Chakra and that garland and that crown. And typically, as you would have a darshan in Tirupati. So this husband and wife, like mad, they run towards that Venkateshwara, wherever he's standing. They go there, they fall at his feet. This garland of red flowers, they offer it to him. And they look up and whom do they see? That boy Satyam, whom they've come across so many times. And for a moment they're surprised, which is delirium. I mean, are we seeing now, is this a dream or that Venkateshwara was a dream? So Swami immediately realizes that this is the thought running. So Swami again turns back into Venkateshwara, gives them a darshan the second time. And this time they see that that red flowers which they had offered as a garland became a beautiful garland of jasmine flowers. And that was how this family was drawn. And what was noticeable and what is something which we have to carry home from this couple is they nailed it. They said, if you have devotion to the Lord, you have to serve his devotees. That is the best way to capture his heart. And that's exactly what they did. And that is why till 2000, Swami did not only remember them, but Swami took care of generations and generations that came after that.